Hello everyone, welcome back to my camera blog site, a place where we love to talk about film cameras, most of the time, sometimes digital. Today is no exception. We have another film camera to do a little show and tell. It is a Bronica 6x6 medium format, the Model SQ. Now, I've actually owned two Bronica cameras for over 20 years. One model is the SQ and the other model I have is the SQA. So today it is the Model SQ. So let's take a look and get right to it. Close up of the Bronica SQ camera. So I'm going to give it a little rotation here. Hopefully the camera will stay in focus, and we will go ahead. I'll just take off the lens cap here and flip up the, no I won't, I'll take it down. So here we go. I'm just going to rotate this around. So here we go. 80mm lens. Right here is the silver button, is the preview button. F-stop, two little grips either side of the lens. They are full click stops. There's no half click stops, but that's fine. The nice rubber grip for the focusing. Now I've had this camera 20 years, and in 20 years it has always stayed consistently the same, as in smoothness. It has never gotten stiffer, it has never gotten looser, and there is zero backlash. It has always remained 100% perfect. Now the nice thing I like about this camera, if I could just rotate that down so you can see, the details marking the depth of field and the numbers on the focusing ring in meters and feet, they are actually engraved into the metal on the lens, and the engraving is filled with paint, meaning that these will never ever rub off. 20 years later they still look perfect. I know some older Hasselblad lenses, the paint will come off, but these old Bronica lenses, they are still perfect. So that is a very good feature that I like. I really do like that. Now, there's also, if I rotate this a little more there, you'll see there's a little red dot there. I hope you can see that if I point to the camera. And there's a red dot there, and then there is an orange dot right here. So when you disconnect this lens, when you reattach the lens, you have to line up this red knob of plastic to this orange dot. Now also, when you detach this lens, you need to cock the shutter. So let's do that right now. So I'm going to just cock the shutter. There it is. There's the releasing mechanism is right here. There's a slide knob here, and there's another slide knob on the other side. This side is to remove the viewfinder, and this side is to remove the lens. Now, when the shutter is cocked, this slide switch will go down a good 1/4 of an inch or more. If the, let me just fire the shutter to show you here. I just put the dark side out. Okay. If you try to remove this lens now without it cocked, you are not physically able to slide this down. It actually locks in place. So you need to cock the shutter to remove this lens. So let me just recock the shutter. So there it is. Now I can slide this down and remove the lens. So let's just do that. Rotates to the right. So there it is. That's the inside of the camera. You'll see the mirror in there, the usual stuff in these type of cameras. Now, to reattach the lens, we'll do that in a minute. So let's just look at this lens while we have the camera and lens separated. This lens is superbly made. It is very well engineered. It still looks brand new. The chrome is still perfect. The gold plated pins, they've never tarnished. They're always good. They look strong and stout. A very well made lens. I really have to say, focusing is ultra smooth. The lens is quite compact. So let's put this back together. So remember, we have to align this red dot with the orange dot on the camera. So I'm just going to do that right now. And when you align it properly, everything falls into place. If it doesn't fall into place, you haven't aligned it properly, you have done something wrong. But once it falls into place, just rotate it counterclockwise, you'll hear a click and it's locked into place. You're good to go. Really good. Now, what I do like about this type of lens, you know, it's a leaf shutter lens, so that what that means is that the flash will synchronize at all speeds. That's the beauty of these type of lenses. Hasselblad lenses are the same. Leaf shutters, the contacts are in the lens. So you can synchronize the flash with a 30th up to a 500th, no problem at all. So the good thing about this camera, which is quite different from the Hasselblad, is the shutter speed is not adjusted on the lens, it is adjusted on the body. This knob here, click stop, can't go wrong, no messing around, a nice big knob and a nice large window there, and you can clearly see what shutter speed you're on. So it'll go, here we go, I got it set at 500th and it shows up in white all the way to when we go to the timing in seconds. So there's 1 second, 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 8 seconds. I think that's 8 seconds. Yes, 8 seconds. I don't have the right glasses on, but so really easy and quick to adjust the shutter speed. You don't have to mess with the lens, which I really do like that. I think that's a great feature. And I consider that part an upgrade from the Hasselblad. Now, I'm not saying the Hasselblad lenses are inferior to this, not at all. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying the function of the speed selection on the camera body is an upgrade, in my opinion. That's what I think. Okay, also on the front of the camera, here is a shutter release. It's a button press and this knurled ring around the side. If you rotate that, you can actually lock the shutter so it won't release. So if we, I think it's already cocked as we had the lens off. Let me just take this slide adapter out, dark slide. So I press the shutter, it will not release. I have to rotate the lock off. Now it'll release. There you go. How good is that? And a lot of these older cameras, you know, the cable release either attaches to the lens or in the button. On this particular camera, the cable release for the shutter is actually in the base. And that's actually good because it's out of the way, and if you decide to use a cable release, it's very easily, in seconds, you can attach it right there. That's the nice thing about this. Okay, now this is the crank, the film advance. It's actually one rotation, done. Then you can actually rotate this. You can fold this over, rotate it here, or you can rotate it backwards to here. That's it. This film is ready to shoot. The film advance number is right there in the film back. Very good. Focus and shoot. Now, the film back, modular type, it is detachable. Just like the Hasselblads and other type of cameras with this type of design. Let me just put in the dark slide. So while we're on the topic of the dark slide, let me just show you something. This dark slide has a white symbol at the top, and there's also a corresponding white symbol on the body of the film back. These two need to be aligned. That's what you need to do. You always align these so that this goes in the right way. Push that in. Everything is now locked. Now you can remove the film back. The film back release button is actually right here on the body. Very simple. Just press it and lift. It is hinged here, two little hook hinges, and straight pins here. So let me just do that. I just pressed it in. There it is. It's off. So as you can see, there is a baffle in there, and that baffle will see that? See how it moved? When you release the shutter, that baffle goes up, stays up, processes the film. And if I rewind this to the next film, you see the baffle comes back into place. Very simple. The surface is well engineered. I've never had any light leaks from Bronica's in over 20 years, and I have 2 of them. So to replace this film back, you need to be a little bit careful. Now, you can replace the film with the back removed, and you simply squeeze these 2 tabs. We can do that. Let me just do that. You heard that? It pops open. There is the film back opened up. Here is the film holder. You can reload this, very similar to a Hasselblad style film holder, nothing special. Put them back in. Now when you put these back in, they are a snug fit, very precise. They'll fall into place when you get everything lined up perfectly. Otherwise it'll snag and hang up. You really need to make sure that this falls into place freely before you close the film back. So let's just close the film back. Now what I like to do is squeeze here again and press. Quite a lot of pressure in there, and that's it done. Now there's 4 tabs here, 2 at the top, and these 2 at the top actually are in this shape. They're like little hooks. So 2 little hooks at the top and straight tabs at the bottom with a little section cut out for the locking mechanism. Okay, now to reconnect this, you need to be very careful. These little hooks need to connect into the hooks. Put it here, connect into the little slots at the top here. So I'm just going to rotate this around while we do that. So, and once again, you really need to get it precise, because this whole camera is a real nice tolerance, nice tight tolerance. It's not loose. So I just gave it a little shake here, and it actually falls into place. Now, if you have to push this into place, you likely are doing something wrong or something is not correct. It should fall into place until you give it a little push to connect. Now what I like to do is press the pin and then push. There you go. You can feel it and it locks. I've never come across a Bronica where these backs are loose. And in my own experience in 20 years, I've never had any light leaks. And I've never done anything to this camera. Nothing. I've just used it. But it has always been light tight. A great camera. Now there's an ASA adjustment here. And there's also 2 gold pins on the top. Now these gold pins are actually, you can remove this and put a reflex finder on here, and you can get reflex finders that actually have a light meter, and they will connect via the light meter to these 2 gold pins. Now to release the viewfinder for whatever reason, you want to change the viewing screen or you want to clean something, then you just literally press the slider on the other side. Now on the Hasselblad, you release it and then you have to slide this whole thing off. On the Bronica, which is a little better, it only goes back a little bit and then you can lift it off. So like that. See that? That's all it is. It went back about 3/8 of an inch, 5, 6, 7 millimeters, and then this will lift right off. And then below here is your focusing screen. And if you need to change the focusing screen or remove it, it's very simple. There's 2 little tabs here, easy to get. You can push these in, lift this out, clean it, put it back. Now, the nice thing about the Bronica focusing screens, I've always found them to be reasonably bright. When I've purchased Hasselblads before, the focusing screens haven't been that bright, and you've had to buy an upgrade focusing screen at huge amounts of money. Ever since I've owned the Bronica, I've always used the same focusing screens, and I've never had an issue with it being dark. The type of focusing screen in this particular camera is like a circle with a split screen, and the circle in the middle is a little brighter than the rest of the split screen, than the rest of the viewfinder image that you see, but really good for focusing. I've never had an issue. So I'm just putting this back now, and you can see I just sat it on the top, just push it forward. You hear a gentle click. It's in place. It's never coming off. So there you go. Now, flash synchronization is right here. And I have used this for flash. I actually use a Metz flash, the older Hammerhead Metz flash. I find them superb. The Metz flash has a nice bracket that you can sit the camera on and you can hold it. Never had an issue. Never had an issue with that. Now, what else can I show you? I can move this down. Right here is a mirror lockup. So if you wanted to do long exposure, lock the mirror up, you can use that. You just turn it up. I personally don't use it. Never. It's there if I need it, but I don't use it in my general photography. Okay, so what is next? The film back, like most of them, they have a little recess. You tear the end cap of your roll of film, you slide it in here, and you have a memory of what's in the camera if you don't use up that particular roll of film. Right here is the battery test button. Now, it's surrounded by a little metal collar, and you can't just like press it easy. You actually have to turn the angle or use a non-sharp pointed object to push that in. So when you push that in, at the front of the viewfinder inside, there's a red light, looks like a red LED will appear. So if I press that, I'm looking now, okay, if I point this at the camera, let me see. I don't know if that's even flashing on and off because my little video camera has a tiny screen. But anyway, in the forward section, there is a very clear red light. You press that and the light shines up. It means your battery is okay. Because the shutter in these has a Seiko electronic timer. So mechanical over electronic timer. The shutter speed is very accurate. I've never had an issue with varying shutter speed. It just works. It's always worked. On the bottom is where the battery goes. You slide this, pop it out, a little battery. This camera does not suck down the batteries. I've had these batteries in for numerous years, and if the camera is not being used, the camera will not drain the battery at all. Not a good idea to leave that battery in there, because if it leaks, it will cause corrosion and damage the contacts inside. So if you're not using the camera for any length of time, always remove the battery. A nice pad here, nice good sized pad for you put it on a tripod, lots of support. Some tripods, they have a really small surface you bolt it on. This is nice and big, which I like. Standard 1/4 inch thread for tripod mount, the usual. Now this camera is also interlocked with the dark slide. If you advance the camera, you will not be able to fire and expose the film if this dark slide is in place. You need to pull it out. That gives you added protection. So you have on the front here, you have the shutter lock, the button lock, and you also have this, so you will not double expose your images, which is great. The viewfinder is nice and bright, and like most viewfinders of this type, there's a little pop-up magnifying glass. You just hit that, you see it popped up, and that's good for very accurate, precise focusing. To get rid of that, you literally just push it down and it will lock when you're done. To collapse this, to fold it down, you just squeeze the two sides here. Do you see that? And it really does. Just give it a little push. It almost folds away by itself. They did a better job than Hasselblad. I'm not saying everything Hasselblad is not good, but on this particular viewfinder, I think it's better engineered. They did a better job. So what's it like to use this camera? Pretty much the same as any other camera of this size, 6x6, medium format. None of them are micro light, and they all have some substance to them because there's a lot of glass, there's a lot of body here. But the camera itself I don't find it overly heavy, and I've never had a problem using it. I've used this camera a lot for handheld portrait shots with 80mm lens. I found it no problem at all. I would get up real close, I'd take my shot. Sometimes I would add flash, and I'd have this thing around my neck and pick it up and down and shoot all day. It never used to bother me. So I think that's a plus. The camera itself is just a well-made camera. Now, this 80mm lens is exactly the same size as the Bronica 150mm lens. This is a 3.5 150mm lens, and it is pretty much the exact same length as the 80mm, which is good. Now, if we compare this to the Hasselblad, this is an f4 150mm, and move out the way, just look at these two sizes. The Hasselblad is probably a third longer. So how do they do that? I don't know. Obviously maybe a little more glass in the Hasselblad, and maybe the Hasselblad is more into perfection. But I tell you what, I found this 150mm Bronica lens great for portraits. I have. I put the camera on a monopod, I put this on, shoot all day long. Great. That was my opinion. Now, the other thing you can get for this camera, you can get, the standard is a 6x6. This is a 6x6. And what I actually have on the camera is a 6x4.5. So for those people who do not want the square format and get an extra couple of frames of film, you can get the Bronica 6x4.5. You don't actually see many of them. I bought this a few years ago on sale and bought it, used it a few times, and it is handy. It really is. So the $1,000,000 question, do I think this is a great camera? Absolutely, 100%. Would I recommend this to, say, for example, my brother, if he's into medium format photography? I would say 100%. Now, these cameras were used extensively in the world in its day of film photography as a wedding photographer's camera. These were workhorses, really good. If you couldn't afford to buy, you know, the Hasselblads and a couple of bodies, you could buy these Bronicas and do medium format wedding photography and create beautiful pictures. Is this more reliable than a Hasselblad? I don't know. I've had this 20 years and never had to repair it. It has never gone wrong. It is always focused. It has always worked. Never jammed, never anything. Now, if somebody said, would you buy this or would you buy a Hasselblad? Well, Hasselblad is likely to cost more than double this. Hasselblads could be older than this. You run the risk of spending a lot of money, and the Hasselblad might need fixing or just doesn't work at all. Hasselblad lenses, they had problem with the grease. The old grease they used to use, the lubricant in the lens, would dry out. So sometimes on a Hasselblad lens, when you focus it, you know, you'd get this stiff then looseness, and then sometimes you'd feel this backlash. That's happened a lot. Every Hasselblad, older Hasselblad lens that I've had, not the newer style, but the older ones, I've actually sent them out to be stripped down, cleaned and relubed. And they relube them with a new type of lubricant that never dries out, likely a silicone-based grease that will never dry out. And my Hasselblad lenses are perfect. Now this camera has never had any repairs done, and this feels as smooth as a Hasselblad lens and has zero backlash, absolutely nothing. Even my 150mm and my 67mm or 65mm has no backlash issues at all, just nice and smooth. So yes, if you see these on eBay, don't hesitate. Now, if you see one on eBay, because these were used as, you know, wedding photography and studio cameras, if you see them well beaten up with no paint and it looks as though it's being thrown around and bashed up, I likely wouldn't buy it, you know, likely worn out, because cameras do wear out, including Hasselblads and every other camera. But if you see one that looks like this, in this condition, maybe just a little bit less, I would not hesitate at all to buy that camera. You will get lots of use out of it. Professional use as well. I have two of these. I've owned the SQ and the SQA for years, and I think they're just a fantastic camera. I love my Hasselblads too. I have a couple of them, but these have a place in my world as well. So there you go. If you see them on eBay, I actually think they're not expensive. If you think $1,000 is expensive to get one of these in mint condition with an 80mm lens, you're wrong. That's cheap. You look at the price of a 50mm Leica lens today. I know it's not apples with apples, but you'll pay more for that lens, and you could buy 2 or 3 of these things. Anyhow, so that's it. I think I'm going to call it a day, and I hope you are all well, and until next time, see you again.